All right, we got 15 seconds on our car on this time. I said we got now 8 seconds, and it's Carl time. All right, it is 6 o'clock. We're going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. I'd like to start the Finance Committee meeting with a moment of silence. I'm sure everyone is probably aware that Councilman McPherson passed away yesterday. So we'll just take a moment to of silence in his honor. Thank you. Okay, the first thing on the agenda tonight is the Humane Society's request for funding. Chris, you want to come forward there? You want to sit there by the mic and tell us who you are? And
Good evening, I'm Chris Miller. I'm the current president of the board of directors for the Academy Humane Society, doing business as Pets R Us.
Do you want to talk about the information, or do you even know exactly what the information is we have in front of us? Or?
I don't know specifically what you have in front of you, but I can speak to the generalities.
Okay. Well, I'll give him the nuts and bolts, and then you can talk about it if you'd like, Chris. Okay. The clerk's office has received two requests for payments from the Pets R Us / Humane Society. As of this year, at this point, they've received no financial support from either the county or the city. There's been some discussion about changes as far as how animal control is handled. I won't get into the specifics of that, but the request that I sent to the council shows that in the month of January, 12 stray animals were brought into the shelter. 9 were brought in by animal control, 3 by citizens. Month of February, animal control brought in 3 dogs, and the public brought in 9 animals, 5 dogs, 4 cats. In March, animal control took in 6 dogs and a cat, and the public brought in 10 more animals. So basically, the Humane Society is requesting 41 animals times $300 for each animal, for a total of $12,300 for the expenses of handling these animals. So if you have anything you'd like to add to that, Chris? Or?
I thank you for your time. Something that not a lot of people are very aware of is that about 2 years, a little short of 2 years ago, the state legislature passed a new law requiring any animal leaving any facility to be spayed or neutered and to have all of its shots up to date. So that put a pretty big expense on the shelter that we had never had before. We had always done our best to address those issues anyway, but now we're forced to by law. We can't let an animal leave the shelter until it has been spayed or neutered and has had all of its shots. We also generally microchip the animal as well, so it's easy to track the animal as it comes back in. That's an expense that we don't have to take by law, but it's an expense that we feel is in the best interest of the community and the animals. So the expense per animal went up $150 from what it was before, just on the shots and the spaying and neutering costs. Not every animal that comes in needs to be spayed or neutered, but most, the vast majority, come to us intact. And in fact, as a point of an anecdote, last month we got brought a pregnant dog by animal control. She had 6 pups. We can't spay or neuter them until they are of the adequate weight to take care of them. So we have to feed them for 6 weeks or more until they get up to the weight that we can spay them and neuter them. Plus they have to have their full 3 rounds of shots before we can even offer them up So those are the kinds of costs that we're talking about. It, again, it was new about June of 2021 that this law was passed. Essentially, we're left in a situation where without the support of the city and county, we can't afford to take animals anymore because we can't afford to keep them in housing. We're left in the lurch, and we want to be able to serve the community the best we can. So that's why we're requesting these funds. And it's not a new request, it's just newly formatted like this, because there had been some discussion before about both city and county wanting to see a per animal fee rather than the lump sum distribution fee. So this is our best shot at getting to that.
Just out of curiosity, when somebody does come and adopt an animal or whatever out there, what do you guys, is there a specific charge that you guys charge the people doing that? Like, do you get any of your costs recouped?
Some, yes. It depends on the puppies are the most expensive thing to adopt at our shelter because everybody wants a puppy. Most of the stuff we have is not puppies. The pregnant dog that had 6 of them notwithstanding. And by the way, you might think, how often is that happening? I've only been on the board for a year, it's happened twice that we've had a dog brought in that was pregnant. So it's not an uncommon occurrence, but it's also not typical, I would say. Typically, the animals that we get brought in are adult dogs or adult cats. Adult cats are only $40 to adopt, so we're not getting much out of them. Kittens are a little bit more. Adult dogs are even more, and then the puppies are the highest cost. I think it's $150. We are constantly evaluating our scale of what we can recoup per animal on the adoption end of things. The truth is, if we run it up too high, we don't get any adoption. So this scale that we have where adult animals cost a lot less and the younger animals are a little bit more expensive seems to be working relatively well so far. If in the future we determine that we're only able to remove puppies, I don't think that'll be the case. We would take the cost of them down. If, on the other hand, we observe that puppies are flying out the door, maybe it's time to take that 150 up to 200. You know, that we are constantly, as a board, evaluating where we should be. At the staff's recommendation, have those prices set.
So do you have like what you guys have determined is a per day cost for you to shelter an animal?
We know roughly, and it does depend greatly on the age of the animal and the type of the animal. We had a dog that was affectionately named Clifford. He was an enormous red dog. He ate probably, I want to say he probably ate 10 pounds of food a day. He obviously was eating a lot. Fortunately, that adopted relatively quickly. We didn't have that expense for very long. He was eating a lot more than a chihuahua.
Sure.
So it completely depends on the animal. We know in general, when we are at or near capacity, we know what we expect to spend on food and litter every day and cleaning supplies. Those are the big ticket items that we have in terms of expense, apart from labor. Labor is our single biggest expense. And those people are not well compensated, but I feel very fortunate to have the staff that we have, given the compensation we've been able to offer us.
You guys have any questions? Amy?
I don't have any questions.
Jonathan?
Not at this time, no.
Scott?
Good. I remember this briefing before.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chris. Is there anybody in the public, anybody want to speak on this? All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right,
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
all right, the request was for $12,300. Would you guys like to move this forward to council?
I would.
Sure. What fund would that come out of?
Pardon?
What fund would we be taking it out of?
We designated some funds and seed it, and this is the way they'd be paid out. You gonna say- All right, we'll move that forward to the May meeting. All right, next on the agenda is the Dykeman Park Clubhouse pledge request. Jan, you guys want to give a 5-minute cliff note? I'm not letting Brad come up, though. I know what his 5 minutes is like. I'm just teasing. Brad, one of you wants to come up and present for a short?
Extra. I think people that weren't here last time, you guys want to use something you want to.
That's for the clubhouse?
Yeah, did you already get it?
No, I'll take a look at it. I've seen the pictures and stuff on it. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I had to have paperwork.
Of course. Wouldn't be right.
Thanks, John.
Do you have that already?
I'll just send it out today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's see what shapes up here.
Well, what I did was, I put together this is basically the resolution that the park board did, I think it was in October of last year, so I kind of hashed this out of that resolution that we had, for you to discuss or whatever, so, it basically talks about everything that Brad presented at the last meeting about the benefits of the golf course and how we're up on the 100 years, and coming up at the golf course members here, I guess, had when we did a survey of them that this is the thing that they were really interested in seeing us do, along with cart paths. Those are the two high priority things for the golf course. So we have put in some of our own fundraising money into the creation of the general plan. It doesn't mean that's exactly what we're going to do, but that's where the general plan is at this point. And then I guess I have to say that we have a terrific committee of volunteers that are ready, willing, and able to get out there and help us raise the remainder funds that we need to get. So we're hoping that the city will kind of help us out with, I guess, the first $1 million, and then maybe spread out over 5 years, and then we'll do our best to get the rest of it as a committee. So, Brad.
I was just kind of as a footnote, I was looking at the Indiana Golf Economic Impact Study. I think it was done for 2021. I feel like we're a year behind. The one you just came out. But I think it was for the year 21. To start with the COVID year, so to speak. Just kind of loosely reciting some statistics. I know the overall impact in the state was over $1 billion. I mean, now a lot of this is soft cost stuff. But the one number that jumped out to me that probably matters as much in this community as any is that in the year 2021, when again things were a little tough, there was $50 million raised across the state at golf courses, for nonprofits and other things. And I know that you pitched that we do a lot of that here. I think the numbers that we offered up to you, which were pretty firm numbers, were 100,000 or more a year. And we think that will increase if the facility is improved for long periods of time, because it's really more of a space problem that we have. It's not so much of just the quality of the facility, it's just a space issue, which we would be addressing if we upgraded, so to speak. So those are some things to think about, and just some new information that I had a chance to look at while, or since we were here last time. But otherwise, Jan summarized it best. I feel like we've offered up as much as we can in terms of facts. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to field those or And I do want to say one more thing. I do agree with Janet. I've been on some fundraising committees in the past. Some I enjoyed more than others. This is a really strong group. I think we've got a lot of, we're very well rounded. I think we have a lot of contacts inside and outside of this community. But we really need this jumpstart, this injection, to get us moving and propel us to what I think will be a successful.
Okay. Anybody have any questions that they want to raise with these guys?
What was the, Brad, what was the figure that you asked the city to give at the last meeting?
$1 million.
1 million?
Yep. I think it's a number that means something to us. We've looked at our potential in terms of what we can generate privately, and also it has some inherent kind of underlying. It says something about the city's commitment. It's a big number. I understand that, but I think in talking with the private donors that we've talked to, they've all communicated to us that it's important that the city really get behind it before they're willing to do that. So there's meaning behind that too, not just.
Any words from the county on donations?
No, I did. Mike and I, as we mentioned, Mike Bowditch and I did meet with a couple county representatives, but frankly, we're waiting on the city to make a commitment that I'm going to re-engage the county council, which I've been invited to meet with council and the commission. But we're kind of in this, cart before the horse thing. So I hate to keep saying that. That's just the reality. Thank you.
Amy, you have any more questions or any?
Oh, it's a municipal golf course. That's not a fair question to inquire about the county. It's a muni golf course. I kind of wish we would have directed some of those COVID dollars that way, but that didn't happen. So I'd like to be behind this. But as you know, once we pledge something, usually there's a back into that. Comes down the road. So I don't know what everyone else is thinking.
Sit back and you mean in the sense of possibly more? Or,
Yeah.
well, Larry, what you?
I'm in full support of it. I've been wanting to see it move forward for last year or so, couple of years. Talked to Jan before, talked to Dean before. It needs something done to it. I mean, let's face it. It was all right when my grandpa mowed the greens out there, but that's been years ago. It needs something to do done. Whenever we get dignitaries in town, that's one of the places that we show them. I think if I'm 100% behind whatever.
Are you comfortable with $1 million?
Yes.
$1 million for it?
As long as we have it, that it doesn't put us in a bind on doing something, something else.
And like I told you guys before, and I'll just kind of reiterate it. Our revenue, our seated revenue is between $900,000 and $1 million a year. Our expenses, our commitments for this year were basically about $550,000. And we've got $170,000 of that. The Y and Logan Stamping both drop off this year. So our commitments for next year would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $430,000 right now.
What? We had commitments on Memorial Hospital too, didn't we?
Those are done.
Okay.
The hospital's done. We had something else on there, but I can't remember. But everything else has dropped off. It was basically all our commitments that we had, I think, were from the previous administration. They were 4- and 5-year commitments.
I just think if we want local leaders or local businesses to support it, we have to show our good faith as well.
Jonathan, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it needs some work, and might as well go ahead and improve it while we're at it. So I'm fine with it as long as it's spread out over 5 years, like Jan said.
Scott?
I'm comfortable with 500,000. I'm tightwad when it comes to seeded fire stations for businesses coming in, developing, and that kind of fits the clubhouse, it is business. I think $1 million's too much. I'm just being a tightwad, need to control some spending. And that's, not a one payment, stretched out for a little while.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll move it forward at $1 million, because I tend to, I think, and I would say this in discussions that I've had. Typically, a lot of times, what we do when we support a project like this, the percentage that we typically support is around 25% of the project, and we normally, when we use that figure, that's typically what we use between city funds and if we used anything from RDC. So, and I'm not speaking for the RDC, but they'll look at that if we were to commit $1 million at the May council meeting to move that forward. Just keep that in mind if you were to go to them and ask them for money. That's typically the threshold that we go to in support of a project. I'm not saying they wouldn't go beyond that, but that's typically the way they look at it. But we'll go ahead. We'll move this to the May meeting. And is there anyone in the public that wants to speak on this before we move it forward, or? All righty, we'll move it forward. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is it over? I missed it?
I would agree. We had to.
Okay. All right, I had the police station transfer funds on there, but Dwayne has informed me that he doesn't believe we'll need to make that transfer. We can pay it directly out of the fund that it's currently in for the first installment on the police station. Is that okay? So this brings us to, Dwayne, it's going to be your show for a little bit here. We've got two different, we've got the SG Preston and the North Street properties you wanted to.
Yeah, and we've
speak
alluded to
about?
those before, but this is just the idea that you guys would, with a letter from Kelly or a recommendation from Kelly, that we'd write these off the books as known losses for the city. The SG Preston is about 600 and I want to say 675,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, which was done 2 administrations ago. That was the plant for burning waste that never materialized. The city paid for that and never got anything out of it. It was not,
We were told that was just a way of doing business. That was just us
something
doing
like that,
business.
yeah. So anyway, we have tried. I mean, we've gone through the lawyers and tried to contact him. I mean, the guy's kind of a ghost, and so the State Board of Accounts is still holding us accountable for that money until you guys, as a council, are willing to write it off and say, hey, we've gone past, past the limits of what we can do to get it back. We've tried everything we can. We'd had Kelly with this. We'd have Kelly write the letter that says, here's what we've done. My recommendation as a city attorney would be to write this off because we've exhausted all possibilities. And then it would just be you guys approving that you recognize there's been a loss to the city for the State Board of Accounts to take into account.
So with Kelly not being here, how do we process this?
We can move it forward, and I'll contact him in the
Get a
morning.
recommendation from Kelly on
Yeah, the recommendation from him, just tell him that I need it this week so that we can get it put on for into the resolution. And I think we can do it by resolution. I don't think it'll take 2 readings, it'll just be one to recognize the loss of the money.
Just out of curiosity, this is a public meeting. What was the loss on that?
What was the total loss?
Yes.
I didn't have time to look it up.
It was at least $2 million, wasn't it?
No, not on that. I'm thinking it was like 600 and, I want to say it's between 675 and 680 is what I was thinking it was the actual amount paid to them in advance that we didn't get. There would have been more investments had it materialized, but it never materialized.
But
That's what they're asking for. They're asking, the State Board of Account is asking for that money back.
Okay.
And it's either that or we have to recognize, hey, as a council, we realize because also our possibilities and it's not coming back and you're willing to write it off as the,
Well, that's more than what I was thinking, but it's still.
so that's SG Preston.
They've cited these numerous times in our State Board of Account audits, haven't they?
Yeah, we finished the 21 audit. We're starting the 22 audit here in the next week. So when they exit audited March, I want to say like the middle of March. So we've had virtually no time to get this done. But I feel like if we can get this done in May, they'll quit writing us up for it because that's the one thing they've brought up, and it's on you. It's on the council. It's not. I mean, it's on you guys to make that decision because it's noted in your notes. And then the other one that's in there is the North Street property that was bought for a little over $18,000, and then the city never took possession of the title or the deed for it, and it's since been sold. And I know Kelly has contacted the county to get that money back, and the county's just kind of looked down and like, no, I don't think so. So that's another $18,000 that is gone.
And who made that purchase?
What are you laughing about out there?
That was done during the last administration. So, but again, that's one that they're going to continue. We've had it written up, I think, 3 times running.
Several times,
Yeah, and so it's going to remain there until we officially are willing to take it off the books. And again, I would ask Kelly to write us a letter saying, you know, we've exhausted our sources. It's his recommendation that the city recognize that it took a loss of $18,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dwayne, I'm just
Okay.
reading through the list you gave me,
You want me
guidelines for wiring funds.
I would say wiring funds, and that's simply I need an approval from you to allow me to wire funds from one bank to another. We have that ability within our system, and to tell you the truth, we've done it already, but we're looking at State Board of Accounts. We need an approval from you guys to allow that to occur. You've approved the funds. Board of Works has approved the funds that were transferred, but we need an official policy that says the clerk treasurer has the right to wire those funds. And there are no funds pending right now that we got to wire. It's just for future reference so that we'll have that. And just so you know, there's only, I believe there's only 3 accounts that I can wire from right now. We're limited. So one of those would be the general, one would be, I think the TIF downtown, and the Lexington Village TIF. Yeah.
Now, is there a template or something that State Board of Accounts has got that you
I'll-
can use on that? Or
I'll see if I can find one. I'm not sure, but I think it's just simply, it's pretty basic statement, just saying the council recognizes that the need to wire funds occasionally occurs, and along with being able to use an ACH, write checks or credit cards approved through the clerk treasurer's office, you'd give me that ability to also wire money. So it would just be an
Or we
add-on.
do an addendum to the one.
Yeah,
we
it'd be
have.
addendum to what we already have.
All right, guidelines for electronic meetings.
And that one, I'm not sure if that should go to rules or should go to you guys. And that's one that could go either way, I guess. If you're gonna have rules after this, we could do it after, we could do it
Okay.
then.
You want
If that's
to-
all right with you, Scott.
Fine.
Okay.
What was that?
Pardon?
What was that?
Guidelines for holding electronic meetings.
Okay.
So since COVID, we've been able to electronically allow people to participate, but once the state of emergency ended, and the state's mandate, or has adjusted its code to allow us to do that, but we have to have a policy in place that says this is how you're going to do it.
Okay, very good.
Well, and the last one I've got, Wayne, is the
The RDC.
revolving funds for the
Yeah.
RDC.
So RDC has run into this issue. They have 3 programs that they've been working with. They have a key building program, which is, there are a number of key buildings in the downtown area that they're trying to save and have renovated. The sidewalk and curb program for businesses and the exterior facade program. And we've been using those, or they've been using those pretty extensively the last couple of 3 years. State Board of Accounts has said that they cannot use money from the TIF fund for personal or for private business. So to get around that, and we've gone through Bose McKinney and Baker Tilly both working together on this to come up with a way to still be able to sustain those programs for the businesses because they are being used, is to have with your approval, start a revolving fund that will initially be funded from CEDAT, but as soon as you establish the fund, you would also pass a resolution that would allow RDC to approve the use of funds from that account. In return, RDC at their next meeting will have a resolution that will provide you back the funds that you initially set in. So if you were to say you were going to set up a fund for $500,000 for them to work off of, that fund would be established by you, and then they would just simply transfer $500,000 from their TIF funds back into CEDAT, so the CEDAT budget would still be full or be completed. And that allows them then to continue to use their programs to try to help the facades and buildings downtown or wherever in the different TIF districts, as it were, because they've been used in a number of places down here. And you can see the outcome of that. I mean, it's been a pretty good look for a lot of the businesses that have used it. The key building program has not been used yet. It was it was put into motion last year. It was kind of designed the year before, put into motion last year, and nobody is using it yet. And Jacob, I don't believe that nobody has applied for it yet either, have they? There's been discussions.
I would expect that.
Yes, there's been discussions, and the anticipation is there will be 1 or 2 key buildings that will come up this year that will apply for those funds. And they basically have tried to put this together kind of like what Peru has done downtown. Peru's RDC has gone in, bought key buildings, renovated them, and then either given them away at a discount or opened them up to the public, so to reestablish their downtown. And that's the goal of this program, is to help continue the reestablishment of the downtown businesses. And then the sidewalk program, which is one that's still being discussed about how they're going to go forward with that, but it's basically to replace sidewalks in the right of way.
It's set up like the residential.
It's set up, yes, it's set up just like the residential area. So, and basically a lot of that discussion is centered around like what went on 6th Street with the trees and the landscaping and that kind of stuff that we've done. So what I'm asking for is to move forward 2 two ordinances. One would be for the establishment of the revolving loan fund at a set amount. And then the, moving forward, the ordinance that would allow RDC then to take control of those funds to be able to use them within their programs.
Just think, you got any questions for Dwayne on this?
I think Dwayne's been busy.
Yes. State Board of Accounts is taking good care of him.
Yeah. So, if, you know, and that, like I do want to state that there is no money coming out of your budget.
So, let me ask you this, Dwayne, we said, is this a fund that at the start of each budget year, they're going to ask us to move a certain amount of money?
Yeah, or
in
we,
anticipation for what they plan to spend.
what they
during the
plan,
year?
and the amount of money that would be put in here would be based upon a 3-year average. So we would look at the 3 years of what these programs have been used, the amount, within anticipation of what would be coming within that year on top of that. So we that gives us the background for where we need to be for that amount of money.
And this is based on what they've done in the last 3 years, correct?
Correct.
So are they gonna have a number for us by the May council meeting to consider?
I hope
or-
so. I'm sure I can get, if I get with Andy Mauser, I can get it. And I know Jacob, you probably got some of it. I know Mike McFord has got the entire list. So I just need to get with Mike on that. But it'll be pretty substantial. I mean, because they've done a lot. And I think one of the questions was whether like the MSRP could be improved as part of that improvement, and or how much of the construction work that would be done out at the through the bond out at Lexington Village, because that alone would give you $2.2 million of use. So there's a number, there's a fair amount here, and if the way I anticipate it is it would also probably be part of the funding that could be used, or part of the funding would be used to help if they were to buy property out north of town here. So I guess I would say, could we move it forward with the anticipation that you'll be acknowledged amount beforehand? I'll try to get you amount by Friday at the latest, so that you'll know what it is. Have the weekend to dwell on it and decide if you want to go that much or less, or even not at all. It's up to you.
These ordinances, I think, Dwayne and Jacob and Mike McFord and Andy Mauser and Dennis Otten, they all met and discussed this in great detail. They had the State Board of Accounts was involved in this, and this the two ordinances and the resolutions were drafted by Dennis Otten. Is that correct?
Yes. Mose McKinney did the actual work on this.
And all this is really, the reality of what's happened here is State Board of Accounts is asking us to create an additional step in what we were already doing. Basically, just moving money from RDC to the council in reality, instead of paying it directly out of the RDC, because according to their codes, you can't.
Right. Well, they can't expend money for some of these private projects that they've been doing that have helped. So you think about like the egress on Black Dog, where you have the upstairs egress there, the egress for Bonus Pines, for People's Winery, all those projects, since they were done on a private business, should have come to a revolving fund like this, according to State Board of Accounts. So this would meet those needs.
Scott, you okay with moving these forward?
Yeah, as long as we have an amount to go by, that's fine.
Jake? John?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move these forward to the May meeting. with the understanding we'll have the numbers to
We should have
review.
more numbers, and then you got to realize these are ordinances, so you'll have a second reading
Right.
where you could,
Right.
you could change the amounts for the second reading if you need to.
Okay, and I believe that brings us up to our guests who have tolerated us for the last 40 minutes plus. You guys want to come up? They are with Verigy.
Kind of a hot potato. We were here last Monday and the zoning guys kicked us out, so. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, sir.
So good evening. My name is Rick Anderson. I'm with Verigy. This is Greg Goodnight. You guys might recognize Greg with the former mayor of Kokomo. Don't hold that against him, but he works with us as well. So would you like me to sit?
Yes, introduce yourself.
Yeah. So again, Rick Anderson with Verigy. We put together energy conservation projects for I call on all the municipal markets, so cities, towns, counties, airports, libraries. There's legislation in the state of Indiana, it's called IC-36-1-12.5. It's guaranteed savings legislation. So what I try to help communities try to find is energy conservation projects that are kind of budget neutral or better, is kind of what our goal is. A quick review, it's not on my handouts here, but the utility situation in Indiana. You guys have partially your own utility, and then you also, as Duke.
No, we're not affiliated with Duke at all anymore.
You're not.
No, we don't generate any power of our own anymore. We purchase power from NextEra,
Okay.
and then from an LLC, we get some solar power, which is out here on the west side of town.
So no more Duke.
No more, other than some transmission line fees.
So I can't disparage them, but anyway, utility situation in Indiana is not great. We're still a regulated utility. All the states around us, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois are all deregulated, so you can buy power from numerous other folks. Indiana, not so much. So in that situation, that's one thing. The other situation is, and I've given you some handouts. So the first page that I gave you kind of describes what we can kind of look at. So we're looking at anything that's sucking up utilities. So HVAC, lighting. We look at plumbing a little bit, but normally most folks on the plumbing rates are still, on the water rates are still pretty low. But we also do quite a bit of solar. So I don't know if you guys have heard much about the Inflation Reduction Act at all, passed by the federal government back in August. The final rules aren't quite out yet or not. But any place that you put solar, geothermal, batteries, all 501c3s, which is where you guys fit into, if you guys use a large number, might not be applicable. Let's just say you put $1 million into solar in, you get a check back from the federal government for $300,000 a year after the solar was energized. So, you know, the utility situation being what it is, and this Inflation Reduction Act, the opportunity there, it's really a great time to be looking at these projects. So again, what we do is we come in and we do an assessment for you. So we get all your bills and look at how you're spending utilities per square foot in your buildings. But we also do a walk around. We'll go and walk. So we walk this building. We get a list of all your city facilities, and we come back with recommendations for you. The assessment is at no cost to the city. And at the end of our assessment, if you guys decide that you don't want to do anything, there's no out cost to the city to do the assessment. I gave you let's call it an MOU in the back of your packet. This really spells out what we do and how we do it. And again, there's no cost to the city to do our assessment. and there's also kind of a tentative schedule on the back here of kind of keeping us on schedule as far as putting these projects together. It normally takes us about 6 weeks to 2 months to the assessment and get information back to you. We're doing these all over the state. We've done quite a few in the state. I gave you a couple of examples. City of North Vernon and also the city of Shelbyville, where we've implemented these projects. A little bit different on each one, but North Vernon actually has rebranded themselves as the Solar City. They put a sun on the corner of their flag. But we put solar in 22 different sites at North Vernon. Shelbyville, I think we've done about 15 sites, but we look at anything from fire stations to animal shelters to public pools, you name it. And it's a pretty neat way to save some energy.
Well, I'd just say a couple things. I'll pass one of your cards on to our utility superintendent. You know, he handles all the electric, solar. I know that we're currently in a situation where we're committed to so much. We have a power range. We have to purchase power from NextEra within that range or you get penalized. And I believe we're at that point now where between the solar we have and that, where we don't have much wiggle room. But I'll pass your card on to him. He might want to talk to you. You know, he handles all 4 of our utilities,
Sure.
Wastewater, stormwater, and water
Oh,
lines.
that's great. Look at this thing also, it's 2 different prongs. It's energy and operational savings, but it's also infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the savings that we come up with help you pay for, just a real good example, we're doing a courthouse, we're doing the oldest courthouse in the state for sales down in Ripley County. And they have some big infrastructure needs, HVAC, we're doing lighting, ceiling tiles, we're actually putting a sprinkler system in there. We're also doing new windows. So it's also this infrastructure improvement thing is a big thing which you really have to consider because you got aging facilities that bricks and sticks are still pretty good, but the infrastructure, the utility infrastructures in the buildings need to be upgraded. So that's what we were able to really help you do as well.
Okay.
Dave, didn't we have something like this done not too long ago? A couple of years
Yeah,
ago?
I'm trying to remember the company that we had come in. They were based out of Indianapolis. It's been long enough ago, because one of our main focuses was the street lighting. And in the end, you know, we worked out a situation with the utilities as part of the pilot between the two and got it done that way and did some upgrading on our lighting and stuff. But what we found out when we had the last crew come through here was the city's kind of in a strange, like this building is actually LMU's building. So if you wanted to do anything again, you need to speak with our superintendent. And but they checked out they went to the street department and the cemetery and all the different outlying buildings and assessed them. And you know, in the end, I'm not going to say that there's no possibilities for you, but we didn't do any more than reach an agreement with the utility, the former superintendent, to have the street lighting changed out to LED. And like you said, it was a tremendous cost savings to switch those out to LED. It was more than we expected. So, but I cannot think of it. Seems like it was green something.
Mm-hmm. Because they do some things like at the fire station, central station, and that changed some lighting and that kind of stuff down there.
They might have done some work at the fire station, yeah. Probably 6-7 years.
Okay. Do they do LEDs, like fire stations, they do LEDs?
I can't remember what all they did do.
I think they did. They upgraded some windows over a couple of years and did some lighting work down there. And I know we're in the midst of a new police station, and all of those things are high priority down there as far as the cost efficiency and the LED lighting. And Travis back there, our chief's been working with them, and our deputy mayor.
very good, yeah, if I could get, utilities down.
Yeah,
Information on the office.
I'll get that for you right now. That way I don't forget.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I'm a Jennings County Panther. So.
What's that?
I'm a Jennings County Panther, so.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that North Vernon.
Awesome.
I'm all about it.
We did the library there too, so.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very nice project, so. Thank you.
Okay, with that, it's 6:50. I will call
Well,
the
before you
finance.
end that,
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Larry, you had something you wanted to
yeah,
talk about.
before it ends this, a thought that I came up with yesterday was, and I kind of briefly talked to Chief Bear about it. We got that new tanker coming in this week, I believe. With Carl's Pass, kind of want to get the council's feeling on. Carl's dad was I believe it was a city firefighter. But with Carl's passing, I'd kind of like to see what your guys' feelings are on with our new truck coming in. And it would be too late for them to do something, but us to put something on the truck that just, in memory of, Councilman Carl McPherson or something like that. We can put whatever. Doesn't have to be inexpensive. We can do it with class. We're not looking to do the entire truck with it. It's just something that Carl was here at a lot of meetings asking when these trucks are coming in, and I personally think it'd be nice if we could do some sort of in memory of somewhere on this truck. And I talked to the chief about it, but I think that, if we do anything, it's probably going to come more from us than it would from. So what's your guys' feelings on?
Talk to the chief?
Do I?
Talk to the Chief Bear about that?
I talked to him briefly yesterday, yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I think he's for it, but
They need to support that first. I support it full-fledged, but, if it's their truck.
right. It's not like, it's, when we purchased trucks before, they put something on there of the council members that were there for, as far as that. And we don't need anything engraved or anything like that. Just, if we can put a Felix the Cat with, on the truck, we surely can put something, and especially with this truck being the newest one in our fleet.
That's great.
Have somebody local do it, possibly do it in the gold leafing like that's the lettering that's on the truck. So if you guys are good with it, I will proceed to talk to the chief and see what we can do. It's not something that the people who are working on the truck right now would do. It's something that we would probably do when it got here, but just I think it would be nice if we did something like that.
Yeah, so long as the fire department's on board, I have no problem with it.
Okay, I'll talk to him.
But you have to promise if I die next week, you're not gonna put my name on a fire truck.
Huh?
Promise if I die next week, you're not gonna put my name on a fire truck.
Put your picture on.
How about, hey, Amy, how about Go Big Red?
There you go.
The 6:54, the Rules Committee meeting will start. First thing on the agenda is the vehicle and traffic control ordinance. Chief Yike, can you and Randy Aldrich please come up? You guys just give us a brief overview of the updates and
This started in November. I think we really start digging in. A lot of this traffic and stuff that's on the books, we still have parking meters that's on there. We still have desk sergeants. Parking tickets were, $1? $5, yeah, $5 or something like that. I mean, it was really, really outdated.
There was also some conflict of Banky's child, what he can do and what the police or city ordinance, you know, where there was loopholes in it where we would write a ticket or tow the car. And we'd be able to, some of the citizens found the loopholes in it because of how the ordinances have been written and how they've been, some of them not taken out, some added in. So we just look at it, compile it, and clean it up, made it up to date. So it's something that we worked on.
I think at one point we found, 4 different tags that we could put on cars with 4 different ordinance numbers. So we're trying to get everything cleaned up, right, into one number. And so that way, the issues like if they're calling the office saying, hey, this car's parked on the sidewalk, they're not bugging those guys if I'm right there. Or if I see it, I can tag it the same way. I think there was some of the little side issues were the green space parking was a big one, with people that are parking between the sidewalks, streets, all over the curb, stuff like that. Being able to address that. And then some of these repair shops we got in town, we got with Aaron and stuff. Some of the mechanical repair shops, they're only zoned to have 4 or 5 vehicles, but we have some that have 15 or 20, where this will actually allow both of us to do something to get it started instead of counting on the county to take care of it. Aaron and Jamie taking care of it in the zoning office. Because some of those are really getting out of control. We should only have maybe 10 cars that are in a repair state sitting on them. Some of them, I've got one missing the other day, 50. So this would help control that a little bit.
That ordinance is already on the books, correct?
It is, but it's in the zoning part of it, so it's hard for code enforcement to actually enforce it.
This would give you more authority to enforce that?
And then be able easier to work with them on that to take care of it.
So we brought it to Mr. Petey and had her look at it as well, including those other parts. So it was a combined effort to make sure that all anything to do with vehicles, parking, abandoned vehicles, all that stuff to be brought in one location as well. So then that way we can have it. It's easier for us as well.
And we updated with Chamber Parks. We had a discussion with Tony on it too, to make sure the street department stuff was updated. There was an issue with campers that's been becoming an ongoing problem and complaint that's actually able to address it now too. Where before it was a struggle for us.
People living in campers not parked on the street?
People living in campers and stuff, the new ordinance, the way it's written, it can be used for storage, but it's plugged in any state or form. It can be tagged and towed at the same time.
Are they supposed to be moved every 72 hours? Okay.
Yep, and they have, certain ones cannot be unhooked from vehicles, so that would help stop a lot of this craziness that's been going on that we've been getting complaints on where they can't really enforce it, and I can't really enforce it, and Aaron can't really enforce it, where now it's put it all together, the wording is clear, and we can take care of it.
That will give you the authority that you need to take care of it?
Right.
Okay.
And it would also give them the authority they can take care of some of that stuff too.
Very good. Any questions from the council?
Just thank you guys. I know this has been a lot of meetings and go on line by line over and over, and I appreciate all the work you guys did on this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So Kelly's looked at this, looked it over already several times, came back to the meetings, and then we went to face it as well, to kind of be, obviously, from a legal standpoint, that he was comfortable with, or past the limits.
Very good. To make sure that everything can stay matched too as well, so.
Awesome.
It's all fine tuned for the move on to council. Yeah. Okay, good.
Any other questions, council? Mike, you want to come up, say something?
Yes, I'm here with Harold Tumine.
Come on up to the table, please.
We live Maple. Harold and I are here tonight to support this, what they're trying to do here. The last 6 8 years in my neighborhood. I lived in my neighborhood for 53 years. We've been there.
next to the 35 years.
And we-
Sorry about that.
So that's, but over the last 6, 8 years, we've noticed that the amount of people parking in their front yards, dragging trailers up into their yard and hooking outlets to it and staying there for a couple of weeks, that kind of stuff has increased. And Mr. Ori has worked his hands to get it taken care of, but he needs some support from the council. By that I mean, he needs your support in finding these people and make the fines so they're fines. A $5 fine is ridiculous. The paper costs more than that to print it off. But I think the landlord, we've increasing the number of rentals in my area, in our area. The landlords are not taking care of them, not making their people take care of property. And Mr. Roy's been up to one property behind Harold and I. And every time he comes up, they'll do a little bit, and then he leaves, comes back, and the load is down, and it gets worse as it goes. So I've lived in that neighborhood for 53 years, and I was there when it was everyone in their own home.
He helped build my house.
And now it's not that way. So there has to be something to keep the homeowners up there protected. And I think an ordinance such as this would be very supportive of that issue, and I think the fine should be enough for it hurts. That's the only way you're going to stop it.
Get them in line. Okay.
We had one incident where we had a guy parked in his front yard, he came up, and there was a brown spot where he had parked there so often. And they moved it for a couple of days and then back at it. We've had a car set up on one of the corners there for a year, had to move. So it's properly licensed, but the engine blew up. They don't move it. So, and they don't have the money to fix it. So I just think that this is an important issue, not just for my neighborhood, but I think for the entire city.
All over, yep, it's all over, Mike.
And that was one of the things when Randy and I sat down to talk is the code enforcement. You're supposed to enforce the codes, the city codes. And there was a lot of wording in the old codes that doesn't allow him to do so. If he has to, if Mr. Fincher calls in and Randy goes in and Randy in turn has to call an officer who could be out on calls as well. I know one day he sent me a picture, there was 8 cars about the block. He was at the property, already doing the property cleanup, and now we have to talk, because he could have easily wrote those tickets and have them towed, where the ordinance hindered him from doing that. So that was one of the focuses, is to allow Randy to enforce the codes that are set forth in the city. Now, he's not issuing citations and those things, but whatever city ordinance is in place, it helps allow him to enforce.
Well, and I've been here long enough to know that even when Johnny was here, I'd call up I'd get a complaint, so I'd call up. Who do I talk to? You call it, and this way it doesn't make any difference. Either one of you can handle it.
And that's what we're talking about too, even if Tim and I aren't here, down, this is set, so it's black and white for the next person that comes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
One of the things we run into, like Mr. Mitchell said, is somebody parked in a park, maybe goes to them, they move it 3 inches, it's moved within that time frame, or a foot. So they're now, he doesn't have to sit there and go anywhere.
We had back in the day, the old days, we had a traffic officer that would put a penny. He used to mark the tires. Well, they go out there and rub it off and wash it off. Then he got smart and put a penny on the top of it. And if the penny was rolled off, they were smart enough, we should have enough to grab the penny up. So, I mean, you gotta have teeth in the darn thing. And I do, I'm not here to badger anybody, but Mr. Overy has, every time we complain, and it's been quite often, he's been responsive, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I know how tough it's going. I just wanted you to know that he has support for this from two guys in.
I think he's got a lot more support than that, honestly.
Sure, but I just wanted I wanted
Yeah.
to come see his ordinance tonight and challenge to do that. They're both doing what they can do, and I think this is a positive step for them.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's, like Mike said, though, it's 35 years I've been there, and the north end, well, but up by the high school, the thing that I see the most is that as these people moved out, older people, like Mike and I, when I moved in there, I was like 30 years old. And I moved in there, it was a great neighborhood. And I moved over from High Street, it was a great neighborhood, this is awesome. Well then, as older people pass on, their kids get the house, they sell the house, or they start renting it out, and they move out of town, they don't care. And when you have, I think not only do you hammer the land, I mean, the people who are renting, you have to, it's their cars or vehicles, they're abusing the property, but you have to somehow put the thumb on that landlord, be responsible. And you guys know, we got plenty of people around here that live in Annapolis, and places here that best way to decorate community is fire. So, you know, I mean, that's how we look like we should be lived in.
Yeah.
You guys know that, you see it all the time. So, we don't want that to be worse for the kids. I'm just saying.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Amy, you in favor of moving this forward?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yep.
Yes. I am too. Dave? Let's move forward.
Thanks for your work.
Next, item I had was on the memorial home.
Can you stick around for a few minutes?
Jacob, you come up, please. I was wanting to try and get the ball rolling on some remodeling or fixing of the memorial home. It's just sitting and falling apart. Jake, can you tell us about some of the grants you mentioned the other day?
So, one of the grants I mentioned was, I think, the Public Facilities Program through Okra. I think I talked to you about that one as well. That one opens up in the fall. And that would allow us to upgrade some of the ADA access or some other things, depending on what the priorities were. But that's a $500,000 grant. It's just like the other Okra grants where there's a 10% match. And that typically opens up in the fall. But in the conversation with Scott, it was, we kind of have to come up with the feasibility of it, a plan for it, so that we're not just blindly throwing $500,000 at a problem. So I didn't know this was on the agenda, so I would have brought my notes on it.
I'm sorry. Didn't the mayor say something about wanting to get not wanting to keep the memorial home, wanting to get a developer in there to do something with it?
I think long term, it doesn't make sense for the city to throw a bunch of money at operational costs. I think is what our determination was. Now, ultimately, that's everybody here, and you know, if we do feasibility on it, what that shows. But yes, get it up to snuff. Make it secure. Get the roof done however we need to do it. Do the things that need to be done on the outside. When we walked around it the other day, and
Terrible.
some things just need to be cleaned up immediately, and I'm gonna start working on that. But as far as some of the structural grant things, get those fixed, and then offer it up to people with ideas for it. And that's part of what happened last time, I believe, and nothing ended up getting done. But as far as turning it into a community center or something like that, I don't know if we'll get the operational budget for something like that. And so long term, it makes sense to do our part. We own it now. We should stabilize it, get it cleaned up, make it available for something to be done with it, and then find somebody that wants to use it sort of something. But that's what we're trying to do is identify some funding opportunities over the next several months. That big one comes in the fall, but to get it stabilized, and I know we've worked with some local contractors to get in there and get us some estimates on that piece of it.
This is Ron Collis from Grand Industrial. You said he went through there looking at stuff, and when was that?
He walked through with Kelly Lehman.
Recently?
It was sometime last year, I believe.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Been a while. I went through there with that guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also discussed something with the mayor and Jake about some fundraising, getting the community involved, donations. I spoke with Kevin Burkett, the State Theater, for doing a benefit. If that would raise some money, because Jake, we have a $259,185 in the dedicated fund for the Memorial Home. Is that correct, Dave?
What's the number you said, Scott?
Designated fund is 9506, but you handed me this with the number on that. Is that to spend on the Memorial Home for repairs or anything like that?
No. Let me give you a number here. There's around $200,000 in the non-reverting. But, a portion of that is for mowing the lawn and paying the lights.
Upkeep and stuff.
Let's see,
Is that the money we got from the county?
150 of it is. Yeah, there's $205,000 roughly.
Okay. Let's start getting some contractors, getting the keys to it, have contractors go through and give us their ideas, estimates, stuff like that, and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and if it gets to the point where you're doing a benefit or something like that to raise money, there is the opportunity through the state to have that patronicity fundraising platform that I think Jan was intending to use.
That's where I
like
heard.
the dog park, where you can get.
Oh, yeah, that's what
The
it was.
minimum project cost was $10,000, so it'd be minimum $5,000 match, but it was up to $50,000 on that. So if we were putting together a fundraiser for something like that, we could apply for this through the state, if given enough lead time, and get up to $50,000 in matching funds for the project as well. That's just a matter of what, if you're doing a benefit, what specifically is that going for? Is it general upkeep, or is that to develop a long-term plan for it, or, just to do the engineering and other professional services fees, which would probably be a good place to start too. But that's another funding option that, if we're doing some fundraising on it, just makes sense to.
Now, is that one you can apply for any time or at certain
Yeah,
times
it's
or
rolling applications.
rolling it?
But I was just looking at it yesterday.
Okay. Any council questions for Jake or any comments, ideas?
I think we ought to sell it to the bank and be finished with it. Personally.
You don't think we should try and fix it up and get a developer in there?
Because there's no parking. If you have older people, it's hard to get them in there. The bank wants that property.
Definitely some hurdles. What would the bank do with it?
Well, the bank's going to expand.
Again?
The bank's going to expand.
That's why Revolution moved.
The subject could be broached with the bank, but I don't believe that they wanted this particular property.
No.
With all the risks associated with it, but the point of that was that
I don't think they.
you would lose the access to the parking.
Yeah.
We're going to lose. I think they are trying to tear it down.
I mean, if we were going to do that, that would be, and,
We don't want to see that
if you're
happen.
interested in that, but from my understanding of what Bill was talking about that one time he came in and spoke to you guys, it was just to reiterate the fact that there's not going to be parking from the bank or the facility. Realistically, they're probably going to lose some parking based on what they do with their expansion there. Now, there were options with another developer.
Right, but
at that
I think
time.
if they took over that, you could use that lot for, I don't think it's worth investing in personally.
It's a delicate issue for a lot of people.
It's a Veterans Memorial. And there was a lot of interest you had that last open house, a lot of public came in, wanted to do things. I wanted to see it happen.
Bring your checkbooks with them.
I'm sure they could make donations, yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things too, is that with some of the grant opportunities, realistically, you could get something done with it if the idea is to keep it, even if we're offloading it, if the council's decision is to scrap it and give it to the bank, that's another, that's got discussion for another day. But if you're thinking, you could fundraise, 50,000, from private or public, get the 50,000 match, and you're at 100,000, and then put, another 50,000 in to get 500,000 from Okra, then you're at, 650,000. Is that enough to stabilize any of it to make it attractive for a developer? I don't know, but there are some opportunities for minor investments to potentially get us to where we're trying to go. But it's going to take some planning and an idea for it. It's not, I'm not going to go apply for a grant if we have no use for it. If we
Exactly.
remove ADA barriers for a couple $100,000 and then the building still sits there, that doesn't do any of us any good.
True.
So I think there needs to be, planning over the next several months.
That's kind of what I'm trying to get started.
Going to apply for that type of grant.
Okay, well, please continue with that grant. We'll have more discussions on it then. Okay, thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. And the last thing on the agenda is the guidelines for electronic meetings. You want to tell us some more about that, Dwayne?
Yeah, it's just the fact that we can have people participate electronically in a meeting so that if you are unable to be here, you could call in or Teams in, whichever, and be able to participate and voice your opinion. And I believe I've got to look at the exact statute, but I believe you cannot vote absentee or out of the meeting on a budgetary item. But you could say, like on the rules for the parking ordinances and stuff, you'd be able to do that, or any other type of ordinance that might come up, you'd be able to vote on. The one thing that would have to be done was we need to address it for all city meetings. So that would include like your committee meetings, include your council meetings, your board of works meetings, your parks board meetings. All that would have to be incorporated within that one ordinance. So I guess what I would suggest, because my week's kind of more complicated this week than I anticipated, maybe just moving it forward, the idea that we can move it forward, and then over the next month I can give you I can put together the statutes that you need to meet, because we do have the statutes in place, from Indiana Code that says this is what we need to do to be able to meet the criteria to have electronic participation.
Now, is this required of us, or is this something?
This is something you can do. I mean, you don't have to do it, but if we have another pandemic or we have issues where people couldn't be here and you want to make sure you can have a meeting, they could call in or electronically be present, and you could go ahead and have that, especially whether that was a committee meeting or a more important meeting of a council meeting or Board of Works or something. But we can't do it. We could do it up until, I want to say it was the end of May or end of April. I don't know. There was a time frame there, but yes, the temporary guidelines are in place. The legislation went ahead and put permanent guidelines in place, but to meet those guidelines, the first thing is you must have a council-approved policy to meet those, that says you're going to meet those guidelines for State Board of Accounts and for.
AIM's got a template for that?
I don't know. I mean, I know we can do it probably pretty easily out of just looking at the code, the Indiana code. For that would give us most of the guidelines. I'm sure there are. If I put it out on a listserv, I'm sure members of AIM or municipal clerk treasurers are going to come up with how many thousands of different ordinances they'll have available that says this is what they approved. And if you don't approve it, that's fine too. It just means that you won't be able to participate other than if you're present physically at a meeting. So,
Okay. Thank you. Everybody in favor of moving that forward?
and it'll probably be for the June meeting. It won't be for the May meeting. I won't get it done that quick.
Get it done. Any other comments, concerns, public? Rules meeting is over at 7:20. Thank you.